Okay, you can begin whenever.
Okay, sorry, I had the agenda pulled up, but I'm now not seeing it. Well, we're going to get going right now on the special meeting of the communications. So sorry, I've put this in place and now I can't find it. And the first order of business is to call the roll. There it is.
Director Bregman,
Here.
Director Russell,
Here.
and Chair Kohler.
I'm here. Our next order of business rather is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do we need a roll call on this, Molly?
We should, and we should see if there's any public comment as well, President Kohler.
Okay. Is there any public comment on the adoption of today's agenda?
There are none.
Great, then let's call the roll.
Director Bregman,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and Chair Kohler.
Aye. Okay, we are now moving to public comment on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Do we have any comments, Terry?
There are none.
Great. That brings us to the regular calendar. The first item is approval of the minutes of the last Communications Committee meeting, which was in May. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on approval of the minutes from the May meeting?
There are none.
Great, then let's call the roll on that.
Director Bregman,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and Chair Kohler.
Aye. That brings us to the next item on the regular calendar, which is the Water Efficiency Program update.
And I have that item. Good morning, board. Carrie Pollard, Water Efficiency Manager. So we're going to start with our water efficiency update today. There's really three topics we're going to run through is review of the drought program goals. We have a few revised suggestions to present to you all. Go through the resources for drought response that are currently in place and also cover some future policy discussions and opportunities that we wanted to bring before you. So jumping right into the drought program goals. I'm going to start with our most aggressive program, the turf removal program. Of course, we have two options for removing turf within the service area. One is the Mulch Madness program, which is a direct install sheet mulching program where Conservation Corps of North Bay crews will come out and actually sheet mulch a site to get rid of the lawn and also disable the irrigation. The other option is offering a $3 per square foot rebate for, again, removing lawn and capping the irrigation system. We're really impressed with the level of signups and participation we've seen in this program so far, right? It's only been in place since the first week of June, so just 2.5 months. We have over 112,000 square feet of pre-approved lawn areas from 123 sites. Those are the pre-approved sites. We have over 45,000 sites that are already complete, which is at 48 completed projects. Total site visits is 215. We have 435 applications as of a couple of days. I think I just looked and it's about 470 now, so that's great. So the applications continue to come in, which is good news. We're seeing an average. We started doing some additional metrics right now that we have about 2.5 months in. We're looking, okay, well, how many applications per day are we getting? You can see the average per day here. And then also we're tracking the days from when an application is received to when a pre-inspection appointment is actually made. And let me move you all up here so I can see those numbers. It's continuing to decline, but it is currently at about 20 days, right? And so as we're getting more efficient with how we're doing our process and how folks are moving through the program, it is going to continue to decline. But I do think there's an opportunity there. This graph shows our tracking of applications for each of the programs. So Cash for Grass is quite a bit more interest. And then the Conservation Corps program is lower, but of course it's a limited program availability. So it makes a lot of sense that's the way it's really working out.
So am I reading your chart the right way, Carrie? You're averaging about 4 applications a day.
We are currently in August, we're averaging about 4 applications a day. Yep, correct.
Got it.
What does limited application applicability mean?
Yeah, so it just means that the Conservation Corps of North Bay has a specific number of work days that they have available.
I gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what is happening with our evaluation of the artificial turf?
Yeah, that's in a couple of slides. Yep. We'll get
okay.
there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Sure. Okay, so looking at program activity, you've seen these numbers at the drought updates, but I wanted to include them here as well. We're proposing to maintain the monthly target of 400,000 square feet. I feel it's quite aggressive, and if we are able to get that, that would be amazing success. In addition, I'm proposing some additional metrics because I feel that just having the 400,000 square foot is a goal, and it's, you know, I don't even want to just say it's aspirational, but it's, you know, we're really going to strive to get there. But what will it take to get there? So we're looking at that number of applications per day. So we'll need about 11 applications to achieve that 400,000 square foot goal. We're also proposing continuing to reduce the number of days from when the application comes in to when the appointment's scheduled. And while that won't necessarily achieve additional water savings, I think it's good customer service. It helps drive interest in the program. It helps keeps it front and center on folks' minds, helps ensure that the irrigation is turned off immediately when they sign up for the program. So that's another metric that is being proposed. So going from 4 applications today, which we're currently seeing, to 11 is going to take, you know, it's a lift, it's a heavy lift. And so this program will continue to be our primary focus for drought outreach, recognizing the program's only been in place for 2.5 months. And there's been a number of various methods of marketing that have been done, you know, whether it's a social media post, the direct mail, you know, next door posts, all these various aspects, right? So we can take an inventory of what's been done and what was successful, and leverage that as we move forward to really inform and have a strategic focused outreach campaign for this program, recognizing that we have established, you know, clear goals of 11 applications per day. The graph on the right shows the area of square feet of the approved projects, as you can kind of see where staff ratcheted, where we kind of got boots on the ground, as you say, right? We can really start moving through these applications as they were coming in. So that's great. We continue to increase the efficiency of how this program is being implemented, which is, you know, we'll just make it run smoother and more opportunity.
Carrie, this is amazing. And these are exactly the kind of metrics and, you know, really ground truthing progress. So just bravo on that, and to you and Ben and everybody. And I don't want to make, you know, I don't want to go too far, too fast, but I'm wondering about the monthly target. It is ambitious, but so I have 2 questions. My first is I want to make sure that you've got the resources that you need, both to, you know, increase the applications per day and bring down that days to scheduling appointments. I think those are just the right metrics, but I'm wondering, you know, when or if you feel that increasing the monthly target, well, I guess I have 2 questions. My first is, you know, when do you feel that we might be talking about increasing that monthly target, and what resources do you need to be meeting these goals or even more aspirational goals? Do you feel you have the resources needed to do what we need to do? I mean, given that this is such huge potential in Marin.
Yeah, I think that we do currently have the resource needs, and I have a slide on resources later on in the presentation. We'll kind of talk about what that, you know, fully entails. But we do, and I think that it's a constant and open discussion about what we need to continue keeping this moving. And I think that you know, we have the resources needs. We're in a good place to start pushing towards this 11 applications per day and increasing the square footage in the program.
Okay, but you don't think we're ready to increase the monthly target?
I would not. I would let me get at least halfway there in a month
Sorry,
before we start increasing it. I get the push.
Right. No, I just feel the need to check. That's all.
I want to be able to exceed it, right? I want to set a goal that we can go above, and then, you know, once we get there, we can kind of start looking at where else can we.
Okay. All
what
right.
makes most sense. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, so artificial turf. So we wanted to bring this back. It was a request to bring it back, and as you know, presented prior, there are some industry concerns around incentivizing artificial turf. I want to recognize that it is allowed to be installed in the service area. There's no prohibition on it, so there's nothing stopping anyone. It's really a difference of, do we promote it is really the question. So I wanted to bring up, once again, some of the concerns that there are in place around artificial turf. One is that the irrigation system does remain generally in place when artificial turf is installed for a number of reasons, whether it's to cool it, to clean it, just for convenience, a number of reasons. Another is that the artificial turf has potential environmental concerns, right? So it's solid waste, it goes directly to the landfill, it cannot be recycled. there are contaminants and microplastics shedding that can occur, right? And in our region, when there's runoff, it goes to our creeks and streams. And so we just want to recognize that as well. Greenhouse gas emissions is another concern. And of course, this heat island effect is widely known and been studied that artificial turf gets quite hot, like so hot that, folks cannot, you don't want your pets out there on it because of that issue. And so we want to recognize that as well. Also, think it's informative for us to know what others are doing. So while I did not look at every utility in the state that has an artificial turf program, I looked at a handful of them that tend to be very progressive and do a lot of their research, right? Knowledgeable. Molten Miguel, Santa Rosa, North Marin, and LADWP, none of them allow artificial turf to be incentivized as part of their turf conversion programs. The one that does, or the one that does have artificial turf within their program, they don't incentivize it, but they do allow it, is Southern Nevada Water Authority. And the difference there is that if a site takes out their lawn in Southern Nevada Water Authority, 50% of that site area can be installed with artificial turf, and they consider it a type of mulch. But they still require the other 50% to be live plant material, right? So they're not incentivizing the entire area. They just consider it a mulch substitute. So again, it really comes back to this idea of, do we, it already is allowed within the service area, but do we want to promote the installation of it? And that is a policy decision that the board would need to make. And so I'll pause here and see to hear your thoughts on this, if there's interest in discussing it. No, all right, moving on.
Well, no, hang on. I thought Larry would say something. What are your thoughts, Larry, on this?
I've kind of come back around to where I was originally, which is to let it be. I ran into somebody locally that's doing it. They're very busy right now anyway. So, they're not hurting for business. And, I think the larger environmental concerns are valid. We've had a lot of flooding issues, runoff issues associated with it here in Ross Valley. So at this point, I'm kind of satisfied where we are, status quo, honestly.
Okay, well, what I'm going to propose then is that we put this in a hold and think about it a little bit. It's a lot of information to get plopped on us. So, let me do some research from my end. My position hasn't changed. I hear you. I don't find the arguments convincing. And the fact that others are doing it or not doing it doesn't make a lot of difference to me, because as you said, we allow the installation of this material in our watershed. And, and yes, I understand the idea of incenting it or not incenting it, but that's pretty artificial definition in my thinking. So with that, we can stop for today as far as I'm concerned, and let me mull it over and go from there.
Larry, just so that I'm clear, because I'm not sure I totally know what your position is, and we are instituting this.
I think it should be allowed and incentivized.
Okay, so right, so that's what I'm trying to. So you feel that that this should be part of our incentive programs, okay? Because I just want to remind everybody that we are going to try to be capturing sort of different board views on these things, so that we have kind of a a clear record, and it's fine for us to have different views. So I'll just say I respect that. From where I sit is that I think I feel differently, that the incentive programs are currently designed the right way, and I would not expand them to include this for the reasons given here, which I actually do find.
In my thinking, Cynthia. My thinking, Cynthia, is that we're here to minimize water usage, and these other things are peripheral issues that, if there's a paper that shows that there are microplastic contaminants coming off it, I'd like to see the paper. Talk is cheap, and I just like to see it tied down. Our previous person in Carrie's job had the same issues. His were all based on, as I recall, landfill disposal concerns. Well, I don't think that's really a valid issue of if something has to be replaced, we don't restrict the use of carpets who go through the same kind of things. Admittedly, they're not as plastic as this material is. But like I say, let me do a little more research, and I'll be back, as Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say.
Yeah, I think I've got some papers and stuff.
That'd be great. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
So
Very good, thank you.
on this, President Kohler, will kind of where you were going, as I understand it, there's no action for staff on this point in terms of changing our incentives with regards to artificial turf.
Exactly.
All right, very good. Moving on. Flume continues to be, you know, a great program. People love it. We have 1,800 devices that have been incentivized. We have our monthly target of 450. This graph here shows the number of devices sold by day. And so Flume has an ongoing Facebook campaign that they've launched and they run within the county, not just our service area, but the entire county. But what you see here on these peaks is the multiplier effect. And this is when we had additional marketing that went out, whether it was a mailer or a Facebook post, really driving folks to the program. So this idea, right, where we're hitting them multiple times and we're engaging them multiple times in different ways to really, you know, remind them that, oh, you saw this and you liked it, now you should go get it, right? Here it is again. And so we found that to be very successful. We'll continue to build on that as we move forward, recognizing that, you know, social media is a great push, right? This is kind of a data-driven online kind of platform, so it really engages those types of folks. So social media is a great marketing tool to use for that, and also using the customer testimonials. You know, I think at every board meeting we hear from folks telling us about how much they love their Flume device and how it's impacting their water use, and so we want to leverage that as well.
Can I ask you about that? I was so glad you included that here, Carrie, because I don't know if everybody on this call remembers, certainly the board members do. We had quite I mean, it was almost operatic testimonial about Flume on our last full board meeting. And I wonder if we were in a position to reach out to that particular constituent, that woman, I don't remember where she was from, what city she was from, and, you know, record those, maybe do little Marin Cam kind of interviews. You know, it seems like that's the kind of thing that would be really valuable. I know that we're going to get to communications in a second, but since you're on this, and since we just had that experience, I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I think that there's an opportunity there, and it, you know, it really comes down to, is it us doing it, or, you know, Flume is offered to do it as well, right? And so I think it could, again, come from multiple directions, and you know, just helps get the word out. So yeah, I'll leave that to with comms can chime in when they do their piece.
Okay.
Carrie, actually, the mayor of San Rafael did a great little YouTube that I can send to you guys right now. It's a 4-minute YouTube, and it's really good because they actually film or video her installing it, and it's very simple, and it's you know, I'll send it to Ben and he can circulate it, but it's really a nice little video that they did, and
That's
it's
great.
the city of San Rafael did it.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
So Flume is a data driven, right? They're all about data. And so they do these webinars every quarter. They do a webinar, they pick a different topic. So they've done one on COVID and water use impacts from COVID. Now they did one recently on outdoor water use. And what they did is they compared, because we have so many devices in our service area, they compared Marin County, so not just us, but again, Marin County outdoor water use compared to the rest of the state. And you can see here, kind of as we were starting to peak, this is April, we're starting to peak as, you know, the shoulder months, it starts to get warmer and people start irrigating a bit more. We're seeing that trend kind of align somewhat with what we're seeing in the state. And then as our call to action really started to hit the street, right, folks became more aware, you see this leveling off, whereas the rest of the state has continued to increase their summer irrigation, you know, which really aligns with ET. I just thought it was really interesting that the various ways that they're using this data to inform water use patterns. And it's nice to see that we're part of that.
That is fascinating. Well, we should talk about how to, you know, what to do with that from a communications perspective when we get to that part of the presentation.
Yeah. Great. All right, moving on to clothes washer. So this is a long-term program we've had in place. We've established a monthly target of 20. I will note that in June, we didn't have any incentives in May. So I think it was a processing thing. So meaning no rebates had been processed in May. They all got hit in June, right? Which is why June is such a high number as I dug into the data a bit more. So I think 20 is a realistic target. We are rolling out a point of purchase material distribution. So staff is doing that actually today and Monday. So we'll start, just continuing to promote when folks are out looking at clothes washers that they can purchase a model that qualifies, and making sure that they're aware of our rebates that are available. Rain barrels, again, similar data that we've seen over the last few board meetings with drought updates. Our program activities listed here with a monthly target of 10. As we move into the fall and winter months, this is really where rain barrels can kind of start seeing a bit more play. It didn't make sense to heavily promote rain barrels midsummer when there wasn't any rainfall, but as we know that fall's coming, there's going to be more of a push. And even in our current bill insert, there's a whole panel talking about rain barrels, not just a snippet on that there's an incentive, but actually discussing rain barrels. And so that's a great way to kind of continue to push out the program. And we're just developing a webinar to help folks understand installation of rain barrel and rainwater harvesting systems to hopefully increase the participation and installation. Moving on, hot water recirculating rebate. So this is a program that has consistently seen quite a bit more interest than what our monthly target had originally proposed. And so I am suggesting that we revise that monthly target and increase it from 5 to 20. What's challenging about these hot water recirculating systems is we can't just look at water use and say, oh, this should be someone we should market this program to, right? It's really only the resident or the homeowner knows whether or not they have this problem or have an opportunity to reduce their demands by installing this type of system. And so I think just doing that continued ongoing promotion and bringing awareness of, if you're waiting a while for hot water, there are systems you can put in place to reduce that waste. Greywater, we've established the monthly target of 10. And I realize that does seem fairly low. So I've proposed an additional metric, which is the number of webinar attendees. I think that's interesting about Greywater is that it's not for everyone, but I think it increases our understanding and our appreciation and our awareness of water when we have folks that even pursue it, even though it may not work for them, right? And so by tracking the number of webinar attendees, I think it might help inform not just level of interest, but also potentially folks are going through the webinar and doing it on their own and not taking us up on our incentive, right? They may say, well, I don't want to do laundry to landscape. I'm going to do some other type of Greywater system. And so using that webinar attendee count is going to be, I think it'll help inform levels of interest. I do want to note that we have 2 additional webinars scheduled, one on September 23rd and one on October 27th. Currently, they'll still be on Zoom, but we look forward to having those in person when we can finally get there.
Carrie, I'm sorry to interrupt, how many webinars have you done on Greywater so far?
I want to say we've done 5. It could have been 6 though, 5 or 6.
That's
and
okay,
initially we only had about 20 people signed up, but the last one we had about 230. So there definitely is an increase as the drought promotions are out there, and I think that we want to continue to build on that.
Are you seeing a connection between, because it's not always the case, are you seeing a connection between people who are on the webinars and then activity in terms of uptake of the incentive, or I don't know if we've got any other way other than uptake of the incentive to know if people are moving forward with these programs?
Yeah, no, we don't have any other way, but I think that would be a good question to ask our partner at the Urban Farmer Store, right? Are they, how many kits are they selling that are outside of our incentive program? We also have heard from another another similar name store, the Backyard Farmer I believe it's in Fairfax, right? That they've actually reached out to us to say, that they're interested in working with us as well. And so that's great. We're thrilled to have another partner in this endeavor, and we look forward to working with them. So in summary, here's the updated monthly targets that we'll continue to track and report to the board. I'll begin including these additional metrics as we do our bi-weekly board updates, drought updates at the board meetings. I wanted to kind of give a summary here.
Why aren't toilets on this list?
That's okay. But it's just because the program hasn't been, we haven't launched it yet. We're doing the application right now. It was just approved right on Tuesday. And so we hope to have the application ready to go. But once we've got that up and running, I think I'll add it in and bring that back. I think it's a great
Okay,
point.
thank you.
Mhm.
Also, Carrie, I'm having trouble locating these MAP max or whatever they are, premium or whatever that word's used, the 1.1. Could
Yep.
you get us a list
I sure
of the
can.
manufacturers that and the qualified toilets, so it would speed up the process? Because I can't find it so far in the
Yes.
there's talk about it, but I can't get it to, you know, is it Toto or American Standard or who it is?
For a quick turnaround, North Marine Water District uses the same list. So
Oh, cool.
I will
Okay.
send, I can send it out and it will be posted on our website, but just as a note,
Cool.
that might be a quick and easy way to grab that list. Many
Thank
water
you.
utilities use it. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Yeah.
Super fast.
Mhm.
So I think it's great that you've increased some of these. I think we should really look hard about whether we can increase them more, and what it would take to do that. These are, I mean, I'm totally hearing you on turf. That's a big lift. It seems to me, given the interest in flume, we might be able to do better. It's just given where we are, you know, given the severity of the drought, the more that we can be doing to move these things out, and connect them to water savings. What we've found in other communities in the West is that the more that you do these things, the more that there's a neighbor effect. What do you mean you don't have a flume, device? What do you mean you haven't, changed out your lawns? I mean, so, I want to be sensitive to the resource issues. That's why I keep asking about it. But I'm hoping we can be a little bit more ambitious on some of these goals, and maybe we can come back with a conversation about that. I don't want to wait another month for another one of these meetings, but maybe at a board meeting coming up, we can have, it would be good to have an in-depth conversation about what it would mean to increase some of these targets.
Maybe I'm missing. Go ahead.
Carrie, are we leaving like little signs when we do turf replacement?
We currently are not, although we've talked about that. I think there is some interest from folks to advertise that they've, what they've done. It's a good idea.
Just to get the neighbors' interest peaked, it might help.
I think
we actually talked about leaving a postcard to say, like, hand this off to 3 of your friends or neighbors, or other ways to kind of do that.
Just a little yard sign or something. It doesn't have to be a big campaign sign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea, and I love the postcard idea. And I'm just realizing we don't have Rachio devices on here. Are we still doing that?
We are still doing it, President Kohler. What we did is we actually pulled it out from having a target, and the reason is that while in the long term, smart controllers will save us water, right? That's where we want to go. We want people to install them, so we still offer the incentive. But as far as drought response, we have to ask customers to override the smart aspect of that controller in order to comply with our limited our watering day restrictions.
I see.
And so
fine. I got it.
Yeah,
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So it is still available, but we don't have target goals for that.
Okay. Well, let's make sure we get
good thinking.
Let's make sure we get our list of to-dos to have a more in-depth conversation at a board meeting, especially since Monty and Jack aren't here, about these incentives and what we can do to increase them in the near term and what that would mean from a resource perspective.
Once they switch,
Okay, moving on to the resource discussion. So I want to start with internal resource, work that's been done, right? So we really, there's been a lot, as you can imagine. And this is just looking at our conservation department, not even a district wide, but we have 8 additional temp staffing that have been brought on board, assisting with taking all these phone calls for that over 1,000 water waste calls that come in, and all of our various 400 applications for turf programs, et cetera. All of the calls people want to talk with us about where their opportunities are, and so it's just been quite a bit, I would say overwhelming. It's just we're working through it. But we have 8 additional temp staff that have been brought on board, and that they've been great. So 4 admin, 3 in the field, and 1 data intern that is just off the charts. And so it's been very helpful. In addition to the additional temp staffing, we have overtime staffing that's been occurring to assist with keeping up with landscape plan review, right? We still have to go through that process, even though we have the the new connection restrictions on installation of landscaping, the plan review process still needs to continue. Waterways patrols are happening outside of our regular business hours. Like this weekend, we have our Drought Drive Up event, which Emma will touch on, but that's all overtime as well. And then the numerous community presentations that are being offered and to help promote drought and drought response and opportunities to save. We also have done quite a few staffing reassignments. There's a whole list here, but just to touch on a few, we have over 200 variance requests that have come in. So making sure that we have a process to take in those requests, disseminate them to the appropriate staff for determination, and then respond back to the customer all in a timely manner. So, you know, there's actually have a staff person that's assigned to take care of that process. The outreach, as I noted, with the Drought Drive Up and then other outreach events, you know, whether it's community group meetings or those public presentations, has been, you know, again, it's across the district, right? Having staff from other departments really come and step in and assist us has been wonderful. And then the waterways program has been a heavy lift, right? To get that in place and get it into a point where it's meaningful and that we can respond to customers appropriately. And so all of these are kind of go to that question of resources. So there is quite a bit of resource support that's been provided and driven to the conservation and efficiency program to help meet these program goals that have been established and respond to our customers in a meaningful way. In addition to the internal work, there's external resources for our drought response. So there's numerous contracts for the turf programs that we have in place. You'll see here an increase in our marketing outreach and media buys and all of the support that goes around with that. And then also some external consultant assistance to focus in on some of the board requests, like around the offset program or the best in class for arid regions, looking at water budget based structures, et cetera. So there's quite a bit going on around continuing this drought response. Moving on to future policy discussions. So I want to start with our collaboration and coordination with our external partners. I think that there's, as part of this, you know, overall policy-driven discussion, we want to recognize that, you know, there's opportunities to not just go at it alone, right? And so working with the Sustainables, with Sustainable Fairfax is a great example that we recently engaged with, and then our other climate action partners. As this COVID relief funding becomes available, I think we'll start to see more communities wanting to potentially work with us, and we want to be prepared and ready to move forward on that. There's ongoing collaboration with the land use planning jurisdiction. So we've already began working with them to train them on assisting us with the water waste education and patrols. They're not doing door hangers, but they have this friendly letter that says, hello neighbor, you know, we noticed water waste. So it's not official, like it's necessarily from us because our staff hasn't seen the waste, but it's a level of engagement to help inform the community and have them work with us. It's worked out really well. Working with them on water efficient plumbing fixture standards and inspections. This is kind of what I refer to as the Fairfax model that, you know, this is the name I came up with, but that idea of working with the local jurisdictions who are already going on site and how can we engage with them to not duplicate the work.
Good idea.
And then also as we go forward, we want to, you know, as we develop policy, we want to understand what those local land use codes are, especially as they relate to landscaping. We want to go in, you know, eyes wide open as policy is being presented to the board. You know, and a good example would be is hardscape and permeable or non-permeable surfaces. So many communities have requirements of not having, you know, having a specific percentage of hardscape that's on a site. And we want to make sure that if we're enacting a policy or presenting a policy to the board, we have an understanding of what those restrictions are, you know, what their current codes are in place. And finally, continuing to learn from others at this best in class sort of initiative, right, around not just arid communities, but other community leaders so that we can make sure that as we move forward, we're, you know, we have the best available information of what worked and what didn't. No need to kind of recreate the wheel in many of these cases. And so looking at the actual specific policies and some policy considerations, staff has heard from the board that there's interest in restricting non-functional turf. And so that's something that that is high on the priority list. These top two, in addition to the water offsets. So these top two are really items that the board has shown specific interest in and staff is working on pursuing. So you'll see these come forward and sooner than later, right? I don't want to give a time frame here, but I think in the next month or so, you'll start to see more information presented on these top 2 items. I continue to recognize that drought surcharges and penalties is an opportunity to reduce demand, right? That really is it's been proven to show that as surcharges and penalties are put in place, demand tend to drop. And so that's another opportunity. As we look at the best-in-class review, I think there may be additional initiatives that the board may be interested in pursuing, and so we wanted to keep that on the list as well. System-wide AMI, right, just kind of build on this idea of the having real-time data available to our customers and the value there. We all recognize it. And finally, assessing the use of water budget. So we have we've received the parcel level data for our residential customers, and we're, as part of the non-functional turf initiative, we're kind of doing that analysis for our commercial and all our other customers as well, which is really building the information database that we would need to assess implementation of water budgets. And so that's continuing to move forward as well.
Carrie, can I throw one more on your list? Again, not to create more work, but just an idea that's come up a few times in, vaguely in board discussions, but then also in conversations with others. We have a overall district goal of reducing consumption by 40%, which we're moving towards. It may be useful to talk with the board and staff about establishing at some point a GPCD goal. It's difficult. Obviously, the biggest problem right now is we don't have AMI widespread. Flume is going ahead, but it's still. So that I recognize that that's the biggest issue, that people don't have real-time information, but I think it's worth discussing, since we just finalized our urban water management plan with a GPCD of 124. I think it is something to discuss about, setting ourselves a goal, however we meet that, whether it's something we put on. Anyway, it's a much longer discussion than we can have today, but I'd like to put it on the list of things that we're talking about, especially since it fits in, I think, with a lot of the things that you've got on this list here.
Very good.
I would second it. They're doing it up in Healdsburg, and it's I would also encourage us to move forward with it.
Thank you.
To clarify, would it be a GPCD goal for drought response, or would it be long-term?
Long-term. I understand that the distinction that you're making between long-term and drought response, but I think at least for me, from a board perspective, those things have really merged, because I don't expect drought to go on indefinitely, but we are where we are with climate change. So I do see it as a long-term investment strategy.
I agree.
Yeah, and if you look at that old case when Marin first did its first moratorium years ago, they talked about sustainable yield from the watershed. And, I think we may need to reassess really what is a sustainable yield from our watershed. My feeling is we should be a watershed-based economy, really, ideally. And, we may need to kind of tamp down demand, for the whole district wide.
Exactly. So, that is exactly correct. That's exactly where I'm going. I'm sorry, Ben, you were going to say a minute ago.
No, I think it was answered in terms of long-term. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there, to have a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal, right? And build towards where we need to go. So it's a great idea.
Does anybody have a feel for what that number is?
My range is between 90 at the high end and 60 is where we want to be going ultimately.
So half of where we are right now.
Half of where we are right now.
Yeah.
Healdsburg, I think is about 74 is what they're telling
so
folks.
Right in the middle of my range.
You'll understand that question, why I ask it shortly. Not today, but soon. Just remember the question.
Well, I think it's the question.
I'm going to write it down.
That's the whole reason I wrote it out. I raised it, Larry, because that is the question.
Well, it's going to be asked of you again, I can assure you.
Okay.
Excuse me, for the public, can you spell out GPCD with that?
Sorry.
Gallon
Yeah.
per capita per day.
Thank you.
Gallon per capita per day.
Thank you.
Right.
Gallon per person, huh?
All right, very good. And so next steps, just wrapping up. There were a few revised program goals that were presented, and we'll continue to track those and have an additional in-depth discussion on considering increasing those goals down the road. Is what we heard. Continue to monitor and pursue resources for ongoing drought response, recognizing, as needs change, we'll have a open discussion around what resources may be needed to not only hit those goals, right, but also just make sure that we're addressing our customer needs and responding appropriately to the drought. And then, as I mentioned, the policy items, the top two that are currently moving forward are the non-functional turf and a discussion on water offsets, looking at landscape restrictions and new connections. And so you'll see those coming forward in the near future. Okay, any additional questions?
Do we have any board questions? I'm just mindful of the time, and because we do want to go to public questions, and we have another presentation. Okay, Terry, any public comment on this item?
I apologize. Yes, Baron Hamill.
Thank you and good morning. A few item topics that I'd like to touch on. What happens to someone's garden after the lawn is taken out? Might I suggest that some informational and inspirational before and after images and resources as a package be given out or put it up on the website so people are inspired? I saw a photograph the other day of a traffic median that was before with grass and flowers, and then an after of what it looked like when that was taken out and mulched and put some grasses, California native grasses in. So it was very inspiring. Second item, hot water recirculating. And I've touched on this with you all before. Regarding future water resiliency, might I suggest that you market to remodel firms and work towards mandating that all kitchen and bath remodels include hot water recirculating or hot water on demand systems, and that eventually all new construction must include it. Item 3, Flume. Rather than AMI, offer Flume as an appliance to supplement the existing meter and include installation assistance where it might be necessary. And 4, you might have seen the email I sent out yesterday about my water conservation challenge. And I spoke with a woman who had the 70% water savings year over year. And I said, what do you attribute that savings to? And she said it was one thing and one thing only, and it was a pool cover. So might I suggest that you create an incentive program for pool covers?
We already have one.
Then you need to market it more because my constituency isn't aware of it.
It's there. It is there. But
all right, then I'll point it out in some future communication.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the before and after thing would be also a great thing, if we could track that. That definitely would inspire folks.
I think
Well,
we have those pictures. I mean, the idea isn't just the whole reason we're offering the incentive is to replace. So I mean, it's not as though we're asking people to just take out their grass and leave their lawns empty. So I mean, I'm fairly confident that's a significant part of the program already. Isn't that the case, Carrie?
No, they're talking about swimming pools, Cynthia.
No, she was talking about the before and after on the turf. I think we'd moved off of swimming pools back to the turf. Her first comment.
Well, maybe that's not what I heard. What I heard was about before and after the pool cover, right?
No,
it's
about turf.
Just posting before and after pictures of how it looks, which would be great,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I see what you're talking about. Okay. Because I think the one with the before and after the swimming pool cover works too. Because, the swimming pool is going to evaporate 5 feet of water a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So over its whole surface,
I just want to be mindful of any other public comments, Terry.
There are none.
Okay, then we're going to move on, unless we don't, I'm not seeing any other board comments on this. So then we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is the comms update.
Yes, thank you. That's mine. Let me just share my screen here. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Adette Weiler, Acting Communications Manager. I want to go over just a quick summary of what I plan to touch on today. I'd like to discuss some of our overarching communications goals. We're going to take a look at our direct to customer outreach, community visibility and engagement. We're going to talk about our stakeholder engagement and some of our ongoing partnerships, a bit on digital outreach, and take a look at our new conservation advertising campaign. So when I think about all of our communications outreach efforts and all of the work that we're doing, I feel that it, is guided by a couple of goals, and that would be to continually refine our messaging tone to align with the severity of the drought, to continue to deliver concise and, most importantly, actionable information focused on water conservation, and also to inform our community about what Marin Water is doing in response to the drought. So starting with our direct to customer outreach, as you've seen at previous meetings, we have a number of different ways to reach our customers directly. So these are our own channels where we control all of the content, the design, and we're able to target our customers directly. So those would be items like bill inserts, our direct mailers, like this rebates postcard you see here. Also our e-newsletters that's sent to more than 23,000 customer emails. And we're also expanding our targeted outreach to specific sectors of customer groups. So maybe customers that have installed flume devices, maybe we have another rebate that we can incentivize them to participate in. We can take a look at high water users, maybe target them with some of our turf rebate options specifically. So just thinking about ways to segment our customer group so that we can target them most effectively. So moving on to what I'm calling community visibility. So these are things like our banners across 4th Street in San Rafael and Sir Francis Drake and San Anselmo. Those have been up for a couple of months now. So we're actually took those banners down and we're looking for additional sites. Go back here, see. So we have our yard signs. It's disappearing on me, but our yard signs that were updated.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Emma. Why would we take them down? I mean, you're right there on the highway.
Yeah, so we had booked that with San Rafael for the longest possible time that we could keep them up, but it is a public space owned by the city, so they had other bookings coming right after us. We were up from the end of May through August, so we had a long stretch. Usually it's paid per week, and they were accommodating enough to allow us to have it up for many more weeks because of the nature of the emergency with the drought. And we're going to repurpose those banners looking at some Southern Marin sites, some other thoroughfares in the service area. So open to suggestions on more places to put those up, but they will not be stored in a closet here. They're going to be back up and out in the public. We also have banners at car washes that are using recycled or reclaimed water. We like doing that because it connects Marin Water to water saving practices out in the real world. We had the updated yard sign that keeps disappearing on me, but we went from drought is here, conserve water, to severe drought, save water. So a bit updated messaging, increase the urgency. And then our lone photo that has stuck with me, our banner at the Marin Water offices that is facing the freeway. So these are considered, to me, community visibility. They may or may not be customers that get a direct bill from us, but it's another touch point in the community for people to see our drought messaging and see the Marin Water brand in the community. And there's our recycled water signs. These are at the fill station. They're also available at our office to pick up. So folks that are using recycled water can put these in front of their homes or anywhere that they're irrigating with recycled water, and also points to our website, to our Conserve Drought landing page, so they can get more information about our drought response. So moving to community engagement, as you know, the recycled water filling station opened on Wednesday. It's open for the second time today. The community response has been great. On social media, the comments have been overwhelmingly positive. This is a service in our community that people are excited about, and it's being really well utilized. As Carrie mentioned, we have the Drought Drive Up event tomorrow. So that's going to be 8 a.m. to noon. Would love to see any of you come through. We are assembling buckets right outside the door here. So we're going to be ready for a big influx of customers, and we're excited about the great turnout and getting those water saving fixtures and information out to our customers. And as previously mentioned at a drought update, we're looking for additional community events, outdoor events as farmers markets pick up and festivals. We're actively looking for places to table and continue to reach our customers.
Emma, can I ask
Yeah.
for you to send some sort of announcement? I think some of us may be more active on Facebook and social media than others, but if you send me a link, I'm happy to post that.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So continuing with our community engagement, we have created this guy, Hydro. He is our super leak finding hero. This is part of our youth outreach materials we've developed as school is starting, and we're ramping up our field trips.
So you got rid of Mr. Toilet, huh?
Our watershed programs, but John the toilet, yes. Well, he's in retirement. He was working with the Pacifics, but
okay, just curious.
We could bring him out if needed, but we've moved to Hydro. So we have word search to help find the leak little maze here. So this is available on our website for parents or teachers to print and color. They can hand out in their classrooms. It's at the TAM van, which is up on the watershed. So just trying to reach a new group. This is at the last Drought Drive Up. We have kind of some quick tips for kids that are appropriate. So we just continued to build out our community engagement tactics, and this is one of the latest with our youth outreach. So continuing stakeholder engagement and partnerships. This, you can see our yard signs here. This is the TAM van. It's right now stationed at the Lake Lagunitas parking lot. So we're utilizing our partners through the TAM van. Again, that mantra of we're going to meet people where they are. We're going to engage with them where they're already gathering. This also includes our commercial outreach. That would be the table tents at restaurants, posters, window clings at gyms. And we continue to utilize our partnerships with cities and towns and other advocacy groups to share our message. There's one of our table tents in real time at a restaurant taken by Gavin on my team. So they are out and about. And digital outreach. So our goal has been to continue to grow our audience across social media. We have been posting a ton. So from May to August, we have posted over 420 drought related posts. So that would exclude a red flag warning or content outside of drought messaging. So over 400 posts. And this has garnered us a total reach of more than 670,000 impressions. So people are seeing the posts, they're interacting with the posts. Some of that is organic. So people that have already been following us and engaged with us. And then some of that is boosted posts. So for a small fee, we can pay to geo-target, geo-fence our service area and then promote our posts so that more eyes are seeing our content. We've continued to come up with new ways to get people engaged and interested in our content on social media. We have our Drive It Dirty campaign, car window clings, you can see there. So people take a picture of their car window clings, tag us with the hashtag Drive It Dirty, and then we share their photos. We also had a Super Saver campaign where we awarded 4 Super Savers in July with the option of either a flume or a Greywater kit. So we've incentivized them sharing their water saving stories with us. And we also, we have our direct mailers and everything with the new watering schedule, but we utilize social media with paid placements to really get that information out to our customers. So I would like to move to phase 2 of our conservation advertising campaign. We're really excited to be debuting this. It's going to be a comprehensive campaign that includes everything from digital and print ads. We have backlit mall posters at the Village that will be going up in high traffic areas. I believe one is by Nordstrom and then another right in front of the Apple store. We have bus backs, which I will show you in the next slide. We have transit shelters. This time we're taking a new approach to radio. We wanted to do digital radio for folks that use streaming services. And we're looking at some video placements on Hulu and Netflix. So that's in development, but we're definitely utilizing digital radio here. And in terms of timeline, all these different elements, they run kind of in a staggered way so that they overlap a bit, but they don't all run at the same time from August to November. So this is, the campaign is made up of 3 concepts. This is the first one. So this blue concept, the water you save saves Marin. Some of the ads, like on the left here, this will be a digital ad. On the right, this may be a print ad. So some have more copy, some have less. This being digital would obviously be a button to click, would take you to our website. For the print ads, it would have a URL on the bottom. So we're really excited. We like the look and feel. We think it has an emotional appeal. It brings us Marin together. The message is strong. The call to action is strong to conserve water, but the imagery is beautiful and elicits this emotional appeal.
Who did the illustration?
The illustration, this is done by there we go. Sorry. We had a consulting firm come on to do the creative. So that was developed for us by the consulting firm.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, so this is the second concept. If you love Marin, show it. And, some of these will have the full copy, some will not, but we can't count on the rain. So we need to count on you. Visit our website for news, rebates, and more. So similar messaging, similar imaging, but just a different take on it. So there's our bus back. We also have it in Spanish.
Great.
And
wasn't there one more?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
It's disappearing on me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So there's the shelter.
I love that. No excuse for overuse.
That's our English, no excuse for overuse.
Right.
And that is not actually, will not stop disappearing. It's a mock-up. It had to be my first meeting. It just rite of passage, right? So that was just a mock-up of what it would look like at the Smart Transit Center. So you'll be seeing these out in the community. You'll be seeing them on our website, social media. They'll be utilized across many different platforms. We also, we look at what is resonating well with folks. So if, like say the water you save saves Marin, that concept is doing really well in digital, then we'll continue to push digital. If it's not getting as many clicks as if you love Marin, show it. We look at the results and see what makes sense for the best placement, see which ones are performing well. So we work closely with the consultant to make sure that we're having the biggest impact that we can.
And can you just say who the consultant is? Because this isn't Mark Milan's group that did this, right? This was your prior consultant?
Yes, this is the Engine is Red out of Santa Rosa.
Red, right.
Yeah, so they did our.
I think their work is great. It's really good.
Yeah, we really enjoy working with them. And so they were also the firm that did our first phase of the campaign. And I would say that went really well and was a great introduction to the conservation messaging in a paid comprehensive campaign that way. I think that this iteration is a little bit more refined and does a good job of, the drought is getting worse. We need to keep saving water, but it's not, it doesn't elicit like a fear response or doomsday kind of thing. It's very hopeful, uplifting, that we can take action to change the course here.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Okay, so looking ahead, these are, just as I think about the coming months and as we move forward in all of our outreach efforts, to continue to think strategically and creatively about our outreach. I think we have a number of different opportunities to continue to expand what we're doing, to take inventory of what's working. and to make adjustment where needed. Brings me to our second point here, that we'll be agile and we'll focus our efforts on what's resonating using the data-backed approach to see what's working, what's reaching customers, what's resonating with them, and to continue to stay connected with our partners in the community through our presentations, through being at community events, taking their questions, engaging with folks. So really just a two-way conversation. We're listening. We want to provide information that's relevant to them in a way that they're best able to take those conservation actions. So happy to take any questions or discuss any of the items here.
Okay, Larry, any questions or comments?
No, I really like it. We talked about it. We had a little ad hoc meeting about our habitat release, and we're talking about connecting conservation to watershed resources. And you've done it. This makes the connection, and I think that will resonate with a lot of people in Marin. So I really like it.
I do too.
Great. I do three. I think it's good. Really good. I think we're moving in a good direction. I have a couple of questions. We talked, or I guess, I think you talked just a second ago about having people share their water saving stories with us. What are we doing with those stories? I'm not clear about how we're gathering those testimonials and what we're doing with them, how we're, how we're putting them out there in the world.
Yeah, sure. So if people, either if they're sending us an email, we're having phone conversations with them, they're sharing it on social media. We have a Super Savers page on our website that we push back to from social media. So it would have a featured, like there's an art installation in Mill Valley called Drops that has the cutouts of water drops, and it's to inspire people to conserve. So we featured them on the website. We featured a YouTube video recording that someone in Lucas Valley made, who is, I would call, a flume evangelist, who has gotten his whole neighborhood to install flume, and they compare their water usage. So we just, we work with Carrie's group. We hear about people going above and beyond an extraordinary water saving effort, and then we are publicizing those efforts through our social media channels and then on our website. So that would be our hashtag Super Savers and hashtag saving water story.
Okay.
I think that's a great term. I love it.
Yeah.
Flume evangelist.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the comments that were made at the last board meeting, we should consider having a sale on flumes to say, let's give it a 30-day loop or something like that, and say, for the next 30 days, there's no charge. That we'll eat the whole thing. Or something like that.
I like it. I don't know if I have authority to approve it.
No, you don't. You don't. I'm throwing it really out, not to you as much, Emma, as to the group.
Another, Larry, option that we've kicked around is, even though it is easy to install, some people may have a technology barrier, and we could offer support for installation, even though it is pretty simple, kind of for a given period. But those are the kind of things, right, that the team has talked about, just short-term opportunities to get out there and create a different kind of interest.
That works too. Free installation for the next 30 days. One of the things that really concerns me about the flume is the rubber bands. I think that is a mistake. In the long run, it's going to fall off. You're going to get at the most out of a rubber band a year or something like that. I think we should talk to them about improving that connection, because it's got, to me, the two biggest problems with it that I see are, it's going to need a battery replacement, and I don't know if the battery is replaceable or not, and it's going to need something on the mounting. So I'm concerned about that, because you put it in and then it falls off. How are they going to even know it fell off? They're going to think, oh, wow, we're not using any water.
So just to swing back, if we could, to my question, I just want to make sure we finish off on that, on the publicizing of the stories. I have a couple of thoughts. So it sounds like you really have to know to go to the Super Saver site. So I'm going to make a few suggestions just for you to consider and come back to us with Emma and team. I think we should link to it both on the FAQs, like have a section on the FAQs that says, if you want to see testimonials, go here. And I think we need something fairly, and I know we're putting a lot on the homepage, but I do think that's where a lot of people land. But on our homepage, put something there, but then also on the main conservation page. So I think we need to have, I guess what I'm trying to say is, and I'm certainly not the expert here, but what I'm looking for is multiple pathways to get there, because it was hard for me to find. I was sort of like poking around the site and I never made it to the Super Saver. Like it didn't occur to me to go there. So I just want to make sure that we are making it, because I think these testimonials are really compelling, really intriguing. I think we should be, so that's my first thing, is like, let's have multiple avenues on the website to get there. And I'm sure you're doing a great job on social media. I think the other thing is I'd like to see about what we can do about moving these into the media itself. There's a lot of stories, not just in the IJ. We love the IJ, but not just in the IJ. This is the kind of thing that I think is very compelling for magazines, for news magazines, really, and especially having video. I think there's a way of really bringing in the media to help us move these things out in free channels. So I'd like to see about that.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think you and Jeannie have done a really good job in coming back to us every week with these metrics about how we're doing on social media and everything else. I'd like to see, it would just be interesting to me, and I think to other members of the board, to see, are people clicking on those? I'd love to see the extent to which people are actually clicking on that page. And then related, which pages are getting the most clicks. I mean, I can tell, we're getting tens of thousands of impressions, which is fantastic. And, all praise to you guys for that. But I think it would be helpful for us to see, where are people going? Like what's getting the most traction? I think that would really help us to understand where we need and to help you and, Ben and the rest of the team, either, move more traffic in a particular direction, or, just help us learn what is compelling to people.
Okay. Yep,
Great.
definitely. Thank
Cool.
you.
My second set of questions goes back to Flume. We're all very excited about Flume. Oh, yeah, and I think Carrie, or maybe you were saying, that in terms of doing more video testimonials, that Flume was doing this. I'm sure they are, but is there some reason we can't? For example, the woman who came to our meeting, I'm not sure if she's done a video testimonial, but I would love for us to have a way, and again, I'm aware of resources, to either, either just do a little, iPhone video for her, or, have her send us something, but something like that. I don't know that it makes sense for us to just rely on Flume to do those.
That's a great idea.
And I think I've talked before about the Molten Cam. I don't mean to constantly be pointing to our friends at Molten Miguel Water District in Southern California, but they are ahead of virtually everybody on this concert, on, in a lot of these issues, and especially around their outreach to the community. They're smaller than we are. And so it's been at least 4 years now that they've had something called the Molten Cam. And wherever they're out in the world, whether it's conservation or fixing a street or whatever, they have encouraged their team to all be outreach ambassadors and take videos of positive interactions with customers, of what they're doing. And I just think this kind of thing is a great opportunity for us to establish a Marin Cam and, really encourage people to participate in the Marin Cam in some way. Again, I'm not the comms expert here, but we have an awfully, we have a community where I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say pretty much everybody's got some kind of phone with a recording device, and people seem to be very excited about recording themselves doing all kinds of things. So I think if we could leverage that and encourage them to send us their of course, appropriate videos of themselves engaging with conservation in good ways, I think that'd be great. And then my last action item is, and this really goes, I think, Larry Russell, to what you were just saying about helping people to figure out how to use their devices. What about doing a webinar with Flume?
Yeah,
right?
sure.
We sponsor
Sure,
it.
great idea.
It's like our webinar, it's free. We invite whoever, we publicize it for a while. And, we bring in Sarah or Clay or whoever, and, and it can be kind of like a joint thing. It's like, here's the Flume device, here's why it's so great. And they can do their whole thing about, all the fantastic data they've got about how it saves water. We can get this lady I keep talking about with the testimonial, but then you, team, can come on and say, and here's the rebate, and here's how you engage with the rebate. And, and since you participated in this webinar, you're going to get an extra 20% off, or whatever we want to do, that like that kind of thing.
Or free installation.
Or free installation, whatever, going to Larry Russell's point about an extra incentive. Anyway, I think setting up a couple of those I know that Sarah and Clay, you guys probably know Sarah and Clay over at Flume. I know that I think they're doing these constantly. So I think the lift would be relatively light in terms of putting something together. The main thing is I'm putting more work on Emma and her team's plate and doing the outreach to get people to show up. But hey, if we can get, what did you say you had, Carrie, at the Greywater one, 200 people? I think we should have a competition. I think we should see if we could get 300 at the Flume webinar. Anyway, those are my thoughts to expand on what you're already doing and give you even more work to do, which I know is what I'm asking for.
I wanted to, if I could just briefly share, late breaking, we just did our calculation of our week savings that we've been tracking. So continues to go in the right direction. So we've hit 30% week to week savings over. So the last week was 28. I think the last 2 weeks. So it's continues to go in the right direction. So that really reflects the work that you've just heard.
Yeah, that's excellent.
That is great. Okay, I know we've gotten past when we were supposed to adjourn, but I want to make sure we don't have any other board comments on this. I'm not seeing any public comment on this, Terry.
Yes, we have one so far. Jennifer O'Mara, please.
Hi. First of all, thank you guys. This is my first board meeting that I've attended, and you did a great job. You covered a lot of areas. Just want to call out that one thing I've always noticed and see people respond to is when you actually tell them what the reduction goal is or what your target is. And it is completely omitted from every single communication that I have seen come out of this board. And our little inserts with our water bills at the top of every major communication, on the signs that the communications had up on billboards, on the social media communication. Not a single time did you lead off with, or even include in the body, that the target is 40% reduction. And when you don't do that, people don't understand and they don't have a goal to drive to. And just as a sample, in the last month, I asked probably 5 different sets of friends if they knew what the reduction was, what the target was. Not a single one had an idea. And, some of them were doing some things, some of them weren't doing some things, but nobody knew that they had to hit, or they should try to hit 40%. I think that's a significant issue. And I would hope that you would think about, incorporating that into your communication. The second thing, and I'll make this brief, is that there's a lot of things people prohibited in doing these things, and like watering only this day, that day. But there's not a lot of, this is how you get to 40%. This is nothing about an aerator will save you up to 80% on this faucet. There's not if you do mulch, you can extend, like for me, I added mulch and I was able to reduce my drip time by about 12%, but also I was able to extend it an extra day. So I saved 41% on that drip system. There's no guide on what it takes to get to 40%. So it just would be a little helpful to maybe even to give a little sheet for somebody internally. This is our 5 things you can do, and this is 50%, 20%, 5%. And these are cheap things. Aerator is cheap. A drip system is cheap. And that's basically it. So in general, I have to say, I'm really impressed with a lot of the thoughts and what you guys have done. I just think that these 2 things are kind of missing in your message.
Thank you so much for that comment. I think we talk about it so much, we just assume it's out there, but I think Emma and the rest of the team, I think that's a great point. I think the challenge is that we don't want people to think everybody individually has to get to 40% because some people are already super savers. That's our overall goal, district goal. But I think it's a really fair point, and one that we should be incorporating into certainly on the website, and certainly on our individual mailers to homes and bills. I think that makes a lot of sense. I actually, because we talk about it so much, I just assumed we were doing that. But Emma or Ben, do you want to speak to that?
Grace, that's not the number.
40% has been our goal. Isn't that right?
You're muted.
And you're muted, yeah.
Yeah, 40% has been our system-wide goal.
Exactly.
And we heard from the board today, and we are working on developing and communicating goals to the public where we'd like them to strive for, thinking maybe a general goal and then also an indoor goal specifically, because we do have folks that don't have much irrigation. As we move into the winter, we do want to remind folks savings isn't just with irrigation, it's also indoors. So we are moving to establish these goals and really communicate it, the individual goals, as well as our system goal.
Yeah, and I think she also was saying if we had a tip sheet, you know, that we could give customers, you know. So again, not to advertise Healdsburg again, they do have like when you go to their homepage on conservation, it's just boom, it's right there. So
yeah. And I hear what you're saying, Ben, but I think you're making it a little more complicated. What I heard the caller saying is people don't know we even have a system-wide goal, right? I mean, and I think, so let's just start there. We have a system-wide goal. And I think we do need to be saying, as we've all been saying, that doesn't mean an individual goal for each of you because you're all using water in different ways. But I think this idea, you know, that this is our collective goal is just in and of itself. We don't need to wait, I guess is what I'm saying, to make that clear. And I have absolute confidence in, you know, Emma and you and the rest to like find a way to message. It's not that complicated. Our system-wide goal is 40%. It's not for 40% for every single individual person or business or whatever. But I do think that we can do that. We should be responding to that actually right away.
Yeah, well, let's make it simple, Cynthia. Why don't we just put a banner up next to the other banner that says 40% now?
Yeah, we could do that. That's one way. But I think the point that it should be on the website, it should be in our bills. It should
yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah, and I think, yeah, and the longer term efforts, I just don't think that the longer term complicated things we need to do should hold up the messaging that we just heard is lacking so far.
Or, you know, we could put a clock, right, with the 40% at the max and show the 28%, huh? And
right, like
the money people do, you know, the different Mill Valley and
Kiddo does it exactly. I think that's actually a great idea. I love that idea. So again, we're creating more work for you. So, which I know this is why you're here. Anyway, do we have any other public comments, Terry?
We have three. Larry Minikes, Frank Egger, then Baron Hamill. Mr. Minikes, please.
Larry Russell, why don't we just put that countdown clock up showing us getting to 0, 1 gallon at a time, like, right?
That's a great idea too, Larry.
Okay. I wanted to say something about Flume and more incentives. Just keep in mind, those of us, and I'm not talking personally, that have already purchased it, it would leave us a little chagrined if there's heavier rebates or something put in place. So just keep that in mind. And also, for myself, I just got my water bill and I was a little upset. I don't know, upset. I was a little disappointed that we had only hit 30% until I looked at how we compared to other households, similar households, and we're half of similar households. So that comes back to your point about not everyone necessarily needing to meet the 40%. And as far as you guys getting out there and getting the messaging to people so that they understand this, in some ways, and I'm not trying to take anything away from you, it's not necessarily what you guys do, because a lot of people simply never pay attention. They just don't read. They're not looking at any of this. They're doing whatever they're doing. So sometimes it's like banging our heads against the wall. And with that, I will finish my comments. It's getting late. Thank you.
Mr. Egger.
Thank you very much. Frank Egger, Fairfax. Last night, the Fairfax Planning Commission had an application for a new swimming pool. And one of the commissioners asked whether or not it was allowable to build a pool and to fill it right now. And our staff, planning staff, had contacted your staff and asked about that, and they were told that MMWD has no prohibition on constructing new swimming pools or filling them with new swimming pools. was interesting is one of the commissioners said, I'm saving water by the buckets and there's no prohibition on putting in new swimming pools and filling them during a drought. So, I think it's an issue that it's going to start getting more and more publicity and you're going to have to deal with it sooner than later. Thank you very much.
Isn't
Thanks, Frank.
everyone talked about this? Isn't the issue that we can't, we're not the land use planning agencies. I don't think we can dictate that. But I thought we'd covered this, but Ben, do you have a perspective on this?
It's interesting. And I was going to say similarly that, if a town or city wanted to, they not allow construction of swimming pools in the drought, they certainly could do it. As I understand it, and Molly knows better than I, is what we can restrict the use of water, but what I don't believe could say no more swimming pools can be constructed. So we've went through early on the issue of topping off swimming pools and how to better understanding the sort of impacts a prohibition of that sort, what it would do in terms of damaging the filtering system and ultimately probably leading to pools that are mosquito breeding grounds. So we didn't go that direction. This is on the topic specifically of a new pool and filling it up. The challenge with, if we said you can't fill it up, pools really aren't designed to stay empty. And there'd be problems over time with the structure of having an empty pool. So then that leaves us with saying you can't fill it up with our water and having them find other water somewhere, potable water to truck in. And that's something we could think about. I think a lot of this has potential unintended consequences. And as we heard earlier, the big opportunity is what we've taken, which is requiring pool covers. We heard the woman save 70% of her water usage simply with a pool cover. So I think in regards to pools, we can add that to our priority list in terms of communicating. So folks understand we do have the requirement for pool covers and we do have incentives for them.
Is there a service to bring in potable water that's available here in Marin from outside our district?
I don't know. I don't know is the question. There may be someone on staff that knows for sure. I suspect you could find anything for a price. And
well, someone is trucking water right now in West Marin into Mendocino and those places.
Potable or recycled for irrigation?
Potable, as far as I know. I don't know where they're getting it. It must be a spring or something, but yeah, I mean, they're talking about it in Mendocino and places like that, they're charging like $5 to take a shower because that's what it's costing them. But I mean, there are water haulers around. They're always around.
Yeah. Well, again, Healdsburg, their ordinance is you can fill the pool, but you can't fill it with Healdsburg water. And, a one-time fill, if you're building a pool, the cost of water is really minimal compared to the whole project. So, that might be something we could add to our next water conservation ordinance.
I do think Ben's point, though, just to circle back to that, is the relevant one, which is, the land the land development agencies are the ones who have that ability, and perhaps Mr. Egger wants to bring that back to Fairfax. But I think we have another.
The question is if we can restrict our use of water, and we can.
I agree. I agree. But I think he was saying something else, which was how.
It's
just. At least I heard
Frank
be saying something very different.
It's just a way of dealing with it,
Carrie, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We've succeeded in getting the last two cities to sign up to the MOU. Is there a way of using the MOU to convey this information?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to have a conversation with the local jurisdictions on the opportunity for them to put land use restrictions involving restricting pools. I don't know what we'd have to see what their input is on that. I think they
of course.
look at it as, we regulate water use and
Right.
Might be a good time to try it, see what happens.
Okay. I really think we need to move on, guys. Some other people have comments and we're half an hour past when we were supposed to end this meeting.
We have one more, Baron Hamill. Go ahead, Ms. Hamill.
Thank you. Just a quick case study about the affirmation of effective communications. My Drop in the Bucket newsletter reaches 225 people directly, and it's passed along by many of those. So I would venture to guess that we're reaching almost 1,000 people. It has Marin Water's 40% graphic front and center on the page with a message for 40% savings. And the results clearly showed in my challenge. We had 30% new water conservationists, 30% savings amongst that group. And amongst the super savers, we had 42% savings. So that proves that this type of messaging works. Additionally, the website that I've created for a Drop in the Bucket has a water resources page, a whole section on water resources. And one of the pages within that section includes links to conservation tips. And those tips are provided by a variety of different agencies, including your own. So if you make the information available, people will find it, but it has to be a very clear pathway to get to that information. Thank you again.
Thank you. If there are no further comments.
Great. Then unless, Ben, you have anything else, I think we are adjourned. Thanks to everybody. See you next week.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.